All right, so morning everybody. I hope you're all well and enjoying the test Atelier. My talk is called Colleagues to Community because basically I rejoined a testing role, it's going to be about 18 months ago now, and as part of that I wanted to sort of encourage people to knowledge share. I used to do a lot of that when I was in testing before. Unfortunately, my new boss gave me that as an objective. I'm not saying I talked him into it, but it all worked out really nicely. So one of the things I think we're really blessed with in Leeds is a great test community. We have this free event every year. There's Leeds Tester going. There's all sorts of things going on, and I wanted to try and bring a flavour of that and a bit of that into where I worked. So this is sort of part experience report. People keep calling it a workshop, but there's a couple of challenges along. It's not really a workshop. So hopefully you'll enjoy it and you'll learn a little bit. Now, for me, it's about 5.5, 6 years since I did a public talk. Get in a work environment, in people I know every day, can't shut me up. Get in front of here, get a bit nervous, get a bit shaky, but I'll give it a go. So I'm going to start with a joke just to break the ice. So hopefully that's broken the ice. It gave me time to take a deep breath to get going. So a little bit about me just to get things rolling. So being an older gentleman, I've been around for quite a long time and I've had several testing careers. My testing career started off in audit. Audit is all about going around testing systems. So I had early exposure to that. I also spent quite a bit of time designing bespoke management systems. Since 2004, I moved into testing in a financial environment. And as I put up there, who doesn't love regulations? If you've got one hand tied behind your back all the time you're doing stuff, it can be both challenging and interesting to find ways to work around that. I've been involved in Agile teams since 2009, and I always like to say, I don't really raise bugs, I just describe behaviour. Of course, I don't necessarily know if what I'm seeing is a bug. It might be just something weird and wonderful that's not in the requirements. So, who am I to judge? I played cricket for a long time, which is why you'll hear my knees creaking as I wander about. Love reading, tolerate social media, and if anybody's got any questions or anything like that, just come and see me afterwards or hit me on Twitter at Cricket Rails. I've also got a handout at the end, which has got my email address on because I'm hoping to do a sales pitch, but I'll come to that later. So, what are the goals of this talk? So, as I said, it's a bit of an experience report, so you're going to hear about the journey we had from me going back into test to trying to build up a test community. You're going to try some of the things we tried along the way. Hopefully that will help you gain some ideas to take away, try for yourself. Maybe be inspired to have a go where you work, or help us grow. That's where the sales pitch will come in. So, as I said, a couple of years, 18 months ago, bit around that time, started a new job, had a new objective. He wanted me to engage with testers to create a community as part of my role. I just wanted to share some knowledge, but a community thing sounded really good. His idea was to instill a professional attitude in the testers. I wasn't sure what that meant, and we had quite a long discussion on it. So it turned out we would just start a test community. He wanted to raise base skill level, and I was interested in sharing information, sharing knowledge, trying new things, and going on a journey to get to some enlightenment. You never really know everything about everything, so having some enlightenment I thought was a useful place to try and get to. There's a little thank you to Chris, that's my boss up there. He said I had to mention him at some point, so there you go. I fulfilled my duty. So, where did we start? So the initial thoughts were, help! How am I going to do this? I don't want to do it on my own. So I talked around to people and I got a couple of people on board called Joel and Laura, so there's a thank you to them up there as well. And we sat down and we brainstormed, well, what would a test community at work look like? So we wanted it to not be ours, we didn't want it to be a lecturing type of thing, we wanted it to be participant driven. So it was what did the test community want, not necessarily what did we want. We thought a structure would be a fairly good idea as long as that was flexible. We thought having a backlog of some description that was prioritised would be good, and I'll come on to how we did that. We wanted to have ways of having discussions, maybe presentations, but not forcing things on people. Some good things I'd seen around the community were lightning talks, test challenges, but basically enabling people to learn, share their information. Everybody in their head has something you don't know. It might be a small thing, it might be a massive thing, it might be an aha moment, but everybody's got something they can share, and it was just getting a forum, a way of sort of getting that out of people and passing it on. So I thought it'd be really cool to give it a name. We come up with a few ideas and we settled on one, and when we finally shared it, the first thing we said was, well, you spelled it wrong. Now, my response was, if you don't spell something wrong, it's not cool. So, test exchange. I stole that. I steal lots of things as I go along. If I see something cool, I think I'm going to steal that and I'm going to use it myself. So test exchange came from Agile Exchange that started off in 2009 down in London that I attended a couple of times when I was in a business intelligence tester role. So I went down to spot somebody doing a presentation down there. So we got a cool name. We were down with the kids. Everything was running smooth, so we needed a first session. So we started that in January 2016. It was set the scene, share the vision, but we wanted something to try and capture people's imagination. We wanted a challenge. We wanted something for them to do on the first one that they could engage with, and it wasn't just somebody stood at the front talking. So we came up with this challenge idea that I found online. Sent out the first invite, didn't get as many responses as I hoped. So we changed tactics and we thought, guess what always works? Bribery. So when I sent the second one out, I said, oh, by the way, did I mention there'd be biscuits and chocolates and all sorts of things like that? Attendance trebled. So if ever you're going to do this, bribery works. So we started with the challenge, and this is where you get to play. So my glamorous assistants over there are going to hand out a sheet, and for 10 minutes, you're going to have a look at a sheet of paper and you're going to tell me what you can find that's maybe not quite right, what might be an issue. And if anybody wants a pen, there's also some pens as well. So this is from a site called softwaretestingfundamentals.com on a page called Software Testing Exercises. So the idea is to look at the picture, see how many things you can find that might be an issue, might be a problem, aren't quite right, you would raise as a question, all those sorts of things. Show of hands, who found more than 15? There's a few people. Right, and just to prove bribery works, if I'd have told you there were sweets on offer, of chocolates and Haribos, how many people have got more than 15 now? You're all supposed to put your hands up. So they'll be on the table afterwards, so you can have them. So if you're having pizza, I would recommend saving them for pudding. So, even though, like I said, that to me is more of an observation test rather than a bug hunt, and it has the word defect on it. And again, in context, that can mean tons of different stuff. I thought it was, and most people agreed, it was a fun way to do a test challenge to get everybody engaged. It had some added benefits that we didn't actually think about, which was it created quite a few conversations about, well, what is a bug, what is a defect, and was that thing up there something that you would log as a bug, or was it something you just asked a question about, or had somebody made an assumption somewhere along the line without thinking about it? So it did generate quite decent levels of participation. It didn't have a prize, but we did bribe people to come with chocolate, so again, bribery works. And we thought, yeah, it was a good way to start, good way to get people in the room, good way to get people talking about a test community. So between us, we found 24. So anybody get over 20? To be fair, that's 24 as a group, nearly as big as this over a session. So for the competitive ones who want to know what they missed, there's a big long list of stuff up there. Don't worry, don't worry if you are really competitive or you want to take one away. So I have printed out with a picture so you can remember what you did, and that'll be again on the table with the sweets when we've finished. So there were a few interesting things up there, like the red X having part of the X missing. There was a hopping link. Like I say, are we making an assumption the S is missing, or was it Easter? Again, assumptions maybe. Loads of stuff there. So Google had an extra O, not many people picked that up. 2 scroll down bars on the right. Again, there was lots of little nuances in that thing that people didn't pick up on immediately, but as soon as they pointed it out, it's like, oh yeah. So it was a good start, we got people going. So the next thing, got people in the room, got people engaged, we needed to create a backlog, ideally prioritised. So we used a risk-based technique, which is the importance and urgency table. Now, I don't know how many people are familiar with risk-based techniques, but a lot of it's about impact and likelihoods and stuff like that. And this is just a different sort of way, but looking at things from a personal point of view rather than a purely racer type of thing. So, in terms of importance, do you want to know something about, are you scared about not knowing things, or are you relaxed that you can learn it later? Do you really need to know something now? Again, is it something you input later? So, we had various categories that people threw out, and we grouped them together on a wall, and we discussed them all before we started putting them on the board. Everything was, anybody who put a label up, we discussed what they actually meant by the label, so there was common understanding, and then we discussed where it would go on the table. So one of the things that people were really interested in straight away was, what's everybody else doing? What's going on in different teams and things like that. So that became sort of our number one priority. Sort of less important, less urgent with things like test results recording. What are the different ways you can do it? Is there a certain way we should be doing it at work? Things like heuristics and mnemonics were on the board. Account variances, which is specific. I work in a financial company that primarily manages mortgages. So what are the sort of different account statuses? So you can have something that's up to date, something that's in arrears, something that's in litigation, something that's possibly in possession. If it's in possession, that could lead to a shortfall. So there's all these different variances of account statuses, and your testing has to consider all the different types. Again, there's some process knowledge. What should a product owner do? At the time we started this, the company only had one. It's 18 plus months later, we now have 2. So obviously that's going on in leaps and bounds. So it was basically a twofold purpose. Share and discuss this risk-based technique, because this can also be used for you on a testing project. So you go, well, what are the things I need to test? What am I scared about that might have massive impacts? Or what's the stuff I can leave to later? So you could think, well, here's all the things I want to do in testing. You can lay it out. So as we developed, we got more stuff put on the board, A/B testing, requirements, test execution, spec by example. And there's a little disappointed face right up in the top right-hand corner on thought techniques, because I love talking about thought techniques and thinking about different ways of testing and personas and mnemonics and heuristics and loads of stuff like that. And I did my best, but I couldn't convince them that we should be down here somewhere and do it early doors. Eventually, it did take like over a year, but we did get a good session on thought techniques in, and they all went, oh, why didn't we do this sooner? So, you basically work your way from the bottom left-hand corner across up to the top right-hand. We've sort of nearly got to the top right-hand side on our backlog, and we've got a session planned in the end of this month to create a new backlog and see what are the other things we want to create. So, doing this once, it gave us nearly about a year and a half worth of things to talk about, things to do. Each one of them, by the end of it, had an owner who went away to look at it and bring back information to the group. Whether that was because they knew nothing and they were interested in it and they wanted to do that, or whether it's because they were good at it and they wanted to share it. There were different reasons. But we also talked about whether these should be discussed as a lightning talk, whether there should be an individual workshop, whether there should be just a discussion. So there was, each one of those could have been any of those things. So, another interactive session. If you'll notice the sheet of paper you handed out earlier, cleverly has absolutely nothing on the back, so you've got space to write. So one of the other challenges we did, because I snuck this in, because I think this is like thinking about thinking, and I won't wait in 18 months. So a woman fired a shot at a man with her gun, but the man did not die. List the possible reasons for the man not dying. You have 5 minutes. So the idea of this is just to make you think about the assumptions you make when you read stuff. Ash at work is going through the 4-hour tester challenges, and there's a brilliant one on there called Mary Had a Little Lamb. So everybody has heard of Mary Had a Little Lamb. Everybody assumes know exactly what it means, but on the 4-hour tester it challenges your assumptions and said, Mary had a little lamb, so she had mutton for tea. Yeah, and you go, hang on, yeah, that's really obvious. It could be that. Oh, hang on, what are all the other things it could mean? So if you ever get a chance, 4-hour tester, have a look at it, it's really good. Right, what we found was, if you think about the actual words that we're using, there seem to be some themes to all the answers, and literally we've got loads. I like the Venus one, I particularly like the shooting the bullet out of the air one. But they sort of came into categories of, it was a bad aim, it was a non-lethal hit, so he got shot, but it just grazed his shoulder, something like that. The man had protection, so that could be anything from he had a bulletproof vest, or he was behind bulletproof glass, or behind a wall, or he could protect himself by ninja-ing it, or matrix moving, or whatever, but it's a thing. The bullet was a non-lethal bullet, so it could have been a vodka shot, it could have been water, it could have been pain, it could have been blank. So there's, again, lots of things. There could have been actors, so that's why it would have been a black one. The actual gun was imaginary. She couldn't go. Distance, too far away. Like I say, it could have been men are from Mars, women from Venus. She could have been on one planet trying to shoot the other. Don't know. The man was already dead. Amazingly, it took a bit of discussion to get to that one round the room. Again, I got that fairly early. What that says about me, I'm not quite sure. I'm not prepared to pay for therapy. Probably never find out. So, again, that's a different type of challenge we did. Makes you think about the assumptions you make when we're looking at requirements, when we're looking at scope, when we're looking at user stories. Do we actually fully understand what we're talking about and what the people want? Do we know where the value is? Are we asking the right questions to answer those sorts of things? We've done a few of these. We generally have quite a heated discussion about what things are and what things do. Well worth the time. So, again, there's a little thanks up there to Clem Pickering and Mike Greenwood. Last time I was here at Atelier, I was in a workshop on testability, where they used creating a toaster to talk about testability. I thought it was a really good session, so I stole it, and I did it back at work. Everybody seemed to enjoy it, got a lot of feedback on it, which was good. Test conferences, people who attend them, they bring back information, they write blog pieces, we discuss things in the shop. Online test conf, which is done by Practitest, who do the state of testing every year with Tea Time with Testers. They do a free virtual test conference. Anybody not heard of it? It was 50-50 on the speakers last year. Some of them were really old-fashioned ideas, and some of them were quite good new ones. So it usually goes up on YouTube afterwards, so you can wait, take your pick on the ones you want to go. You can sit along. We got everybody in the conference room and listened to it on a big screen. So once the thing, we could have some internal discussions about what we'd heard and what we thought and things like that, and generate some ideas quite quickly. Again, we've had some standalone sessions. Ash kindly came along and did a really good session on mnemonics. The things we're thinking about at the moment is how do we keep maintaining that momentum? We've seen just a slight decline in attendance in the test exchanges. So how can we sort of remotivate people? Is it because the stuff we were doing is no longer relevant, which is why we're having a new backlog session and things like that? Again, openly a bit, like stealing things. 30 days of testing that Ministry of Testing done. I've taken that idea and I've tweaked it to be more relevant to us, and I'm posting it out as a summer test challenge. The idea was we have offices in Bristol, Edinburgh, Skipton, Crossflats, Doxford, and my idea was to try and get all those testers involved. It's gone out to the global QA site, who seem quite interested in it, so now it's going to be a worldwide summer challenge, although it's not technically summer in Australia, but I'm sure they'll get their heads around it. So that's something where we're going to have 2 months of testing with 20 odd test challenges to get people thinking about accessibility, because a lot of people don't think about accessibility, and we really should be thinking about it every time we're developing something that anybody's going to use, which is like most of the time. So it's about the journey, not the destination. We're not trying to get anywhere, we're just trying to get to some enlightenment. Oh, I might have mentioned that before. So, also mentioned this before, you don't get out for note, so for listening to me blather on for a while, I think you might be able to repay me by being a guest speaker. So anybody who's got any ideas that you want to try in a nice, safe environment, anybody who's got a new workshop they want to test out on people and get some feedback on, I can't pay you. I don't have a budget. I don't have a budget for anything. But I can travel to Skipton and buy you a sandwich. So lunch costs has a broad spectrum of probably be a sandwich. We have a really nice restaurant at the offices in Skipton where I work. They do really nice food, so and they'll make you a sandwich there and then, rather than just the cellophane rubbish on the thing. So it sounds better than it is when I say it's just a sandwich. And we're really nice people. We'll welcome you with open arms, and we'll be very grateful that you share anything with us. So on the handout that I've got along with the end, with your bribe of sweets for listening to me and maybe coming and helping me out. Even if you've got some ideas and you're not quite sure how to develop it, I'm quite happy to try and pair with people and maybe run it for you at work and feed you back. Well, this seemed to work, that didn't. Whatever it is, I'm quite happy to take as much help as possible. So, you'll have my details on the thing, my email address and my Twitter handle. So, I read something really interesting quite a good while ago now, and it's sort of been what I try to live my testing life by. And the question isn't who's going to let me, it's who's going to stop me, hence this summer test challenge. I started off with the idea, I wonder if I can get my guys doing a summer test challenge, and then I thought, well, why not get everybody to do it in the company? We're a global company. I'll see how far I can push it. And it seems to have worked. So don't let anybody stop you doing whatever you want to do. If you want to get a test community going, do it over lunchtime. They can't stop you doing what you want in your lunchtime. And then once they see the benefit of it, they might get some buy-in, you might get a little bit of extra time and stuff like that. So, I mentioned we were going to do some goals. So you have now heard about our experience. You have tried some of the things we tried. Hopefully you have gained some ideas to take away. Fingers crossed if I've done the job right. And with a bit of luck, you might have been inspired to have a go, or help us. Please help us. We need help. So if you want to get in touch, have a word with me. The Twitter handle, email address is on the handout. And thank you very much for listening. Questions are guaranteed. So, anybody got any questions? Yes?
Who is your community then? Is it just testers or is it a wider role?
It's primarily testers, but we do get a few developers come along every now and again. The things we share out of Test Exchange, we summarise and we put out there, goes on what is called the Lean Agile blog. And that is basically everybody in IT can read that. The Summer Test Challenge is going out to everybody in IT across the various different places. So I don't see Test Exchange as purely for testers. Its core of people is testers. But the workshops we run and the other stuff we do get, we've had product owners come along, we've had DBAs come along, we've had developers come along, we've even had a couple of business analysts turn up. Because they wonder what we're going on, and they're going, everybody keeps talking about these things you do, I want to know what it is. So yeah, it's not just testers, it can be anybody who's interested. All devs test. They might not admit it, but that, unit test, that's one of the first things they check stuff with.
So did you come up with the vision for that community in terms of what was the vision?
Right, so when I was in testing before, I did quite a few knowledge sharing sessions and I attended quite a few as well, and that was something that I was always involved in. It was something I wanted to get back involved in when I moved back into a full-time testing role, and it had died away. So when I started talking about building this up, the discussion became, well, rather than just knowledge sharing, rather than just standing up in front and discussing ideas, why not try and get everybody involved, which became the community, which became Test Exchange. And like I say, in a roundabout way, it became one of my objectives. So hopefully I'll tick a box on that one.
I guess, talking about vision, have you actually stamped to people so you can go, this is our vision? Is it worded, is it picturised, is it?
We don't have a mission statement as such. We always reinforce the fact it's a participant-driven community, and it's what the people want. We sort of stop and take breath now and again and review the backlog and reprioritise certain things, bring new things onto it. We've, like I say, we've got quite a short list of things now on the backlog that we've sort of done over the last 18 months or so. So we're going to have right, let's start right from the beginning and go, given everything we've done, what are the things we want to go back and go a bit deeper into or rediscuss? What are the things that we haven't thought about? Is anybody interested in VR? Is anybody interested in AI? Is anybody interested in... as a company, we don't do an awful lot of web development. So a lot of the people are starved of those sorts of web testing, pen testing, accessibility testing, all the responsive designs, all those sorts of things. So when you start talking about that, people go, well, it doesn't really apply to me. And I said, well, a lot of it does if you think about it. So it's having those discussions and sort of helping people understand that all of testing applies to them, if you're thinking about it. Any more for any more?
So have you got any sort of maybe buy-in from sort of those higher up, heads of areas or program managers or however it's expressed in your organisation? Do they comment on what you do?
Now and again I get odd comments coming back, but it's not like I'm talking to the heads of every day or things like that. It's I tell them I'm doing stuff and I wait for them to tell me I can't. So I don't ask permission for doing lots of things. I just book workshops and things in and get on with it. And if somebody's going to stop me, then we can have a discussion.
So if you were to, how would you try and engage?
Basically just go through the benefits of a good test community, talking about ways to improve quality, ways to improve the product, ways that would save them money. I'm quite fortunate in my pod that I do pair test. I pair with a developer, and I get involved with the writing the stories and the designing the things that's coming up, and so I can ask questions really early about, well, have we thought about this? Well, what's it going to do in this situation, and those sorts of things. And in the beginning, a lot of those conversations were, yeah, but how am I going to test it? And I'm quite fortunate now that after being pestered for quite a long time since I restarted, I don't have to ask that very often, because I've literally been sat at my desk and heard one of my devs go, oh no, I can't do it that way, that's not really testable.
Yeah.
And I was like, hallelujah.
So have you thought, there's like the relationship between community and delivery of stuff. So how does having a thriving community help you deliver stuff? Well,
hopefully it's improving the quality of the stuff we're getting out there. It's making people think wider, thinking about different scopes that they may not necessarily think about. We're trying to encourage people to bring stories back of, oh, I tried this new thing, or I looked at this and this is the benefits we got at it. As a way of, like I say, if I have to have those conversations with the higher ups and the heads of and things like that, I've got some concrete examples. I can give them plenty of examples from personal experience of me going away learning something and bringing it back into the projects we're doing.
That's the key, isn't it? Learning.
Yeah.
Sharing is a learning.
Yeah. Well, it's like I said right at the beginning. There's pretty much guaranteed there's something in everybody's heads in any room you're ever in of, that's really useful, that's really fantastic and interesting, I want to know more about it, or an aha moment. And it's just getting people to have the conversation to get those things out of it. And if it means somebody's starting a conversation and starting a discussion on a topic to get people talking. Not everybody wants to stand up the front and start that conversation, but most people are happy to join in, especially in a safe space like this, which is cool.
So it's like the relationship between community and delivery value. Because basically you could ask a question relatively innocuously, or say something which then goes and gets implemented somewhere else, based on a community sharing session. And you don't even know that it's happened. And it might have earned the company millions or saved it thousands, but you don't know that it's happened. So So how do you reconcile that slightly sort of esoteric value, link between, having a community and delivering value? Is a really, for me, that's a really interesting thing. So eventually someone asks the question, doesn't it? It's like, well, so you get together every Friday for 3 hours and you talk about testing. Yeah? So, these are the questions that someone will ask eventually.
Well, I got that question 12 months ago from a project manager. I won't go into massive detail, but basically I said there's an old quote that says, I think it's CEO, CFO, and the CFO says, what if we spend a load of money training our people and they go? And the CEO says, well, what if we don't spend the money and they stay? And it's like, if you don't invest in your people, your company's not going to grow. So that's a way of investing in your people and helping them grow, which in turn supports your company aspirations. Or you work for somewhere crap and get out.
Hopefully as well. So maybe someone, as you say, someone will go off and implement the thing, you'll link back to you. So they've almost like stolen the idea. But hopefully, quite often, reputation and the fact that you were the originator of the idea will be translated and relayed somewhere along the line. More often than not, and so you then get the value from it yourself. But it's subtle, isn't it? And it's also a bit intangible in that. But I think there's still value in it for you. There's a risk that someone's using your ideas, but also there's the benefit that you're going to be the person associated with those ideas in the minds of a lot of other people. So I don't know if it's a balancing act.
It's just that I ask like a million questions a day, basically. Like 2 million if I can fit it in. And it's just like, what is the impact of those questions? It's just a really interesting question. And it's kind of, for me, it's like at the heart of the community. It's like you have a session on something, then everybody disappears back to the bed. What happens to it? I'm really interested in what happens to it.
To be honest, I'm just thinking on, I had a conversation with the head of HR and I was asking them, there was looking at job descriptions for testers, and I just said, you've not mentioned we have an internal test community, you want testers. And the company I have is long established, it's the financial area, and there's a possible perception, and I've heard people say this, it's a highly regulated area, you don't get any flexibility in how you work, you don't get any, how can you do agile and that sort of thing? Well, we can, and we do it, and we embrace it. But if you're not putting that on a job description, somebody's going to say, oh, stuffy old financial company, I want to work for somewhere hip and cool in Leeds. I don't want to be trailing out to Skipton in the countryside. But it's quite, the people who come are really happy they work for us, but it's attracting that quality of person who's interested in putting those things on a job description, saying we've got an active internal test community, and saying, we're using Agile in the way we develop things in pods. Those are the sort of things that people are looking for. That in a company, they want to go somewhere where they know that their ideas are going to be listened to, they know they can be flexible within the constraints of the job they have to do. Just because you have to follow a load of regulations at the end of what you put out is just another set of requirements. It's not a constraint in terms of how you do it.
Sorry, how many are there of you in terms of testers at Skipton?
In terms of testers, where I am, there are about 26 spread across the business in different areas. So we have a release test who do all the integration testing, who check that all the individual bits that are being developed work together, because we have to have a very stable system, because if anything goes wrong, we can't raise direct debits. All our clients ain't going to get, their customers aren't going to be able to pay us, which means all their mortgages are going to go in arrears. So we have quite a big release lab. We have some integration testers. Each pod that's working in an agile way has at least one tester. I've been on my own for quite a while, but pods. Most of what we call pods. I'm in Ribblesdale. We're all named after areas in Yorkshire.
Sounds like hospital.
I said that. I said that. I tried to steer them toward tribe names or something cool, but whatever. So Ribblesdale. So I've been on my own for quite a while. Most of the other pods have 2 testers in it, and they're trying to recruit another one to work alongside me. But
so you've got hundreds of testers across the whole organisation then, I guess?
Well, we've recently merged with Cross Flats, which is the UCAR business. We won the contract to run all their mortgage administration stuff, so we've sort of become one firm, and they have over 100 testers. So across various, a lot of them are contractors, so I'm doing my best to engage with them and find it. Cross flats. It's Bingley, just outside of Keighley, which is on the way to Bradford.
How do you resolve the challenge of project time versus community time? We surveyed our testers where I work. We said, what's the main reason you don't get involved in community? And that said, they go, we haven't got enough time. So how do you?
It's a sort of age-old wood, isn't it? If you haven't got, it's like the square wheel versus the round wheel. Why don't you make it round? I haven't got time. We're too busy pushing this square wheel. It's the argument's sort of well made. If you're not investing time in yourself, how can you improve? Hopefully, everybody here is on a continuous learning journey. I certainly am. I know I don't know loads, and I'm looking to sort of chip away at that pretty much every day if I can. Hopefully most other people are like that where we're working, and if you've got a head down trench mentality, I want to come into work, do my job and go, then there's an argument to be made of, yeah, but are you doing a good job?
Yeah, because you're not going to get 100%.
No, you're never
You will get those people.
you're never going to get every single one who's 99.9% passionate about testing and will do anything to learn something. There's going to be a balancing, but hopefully the enthusiasm of people like me can bubble people on.
Do you have a group of active participants that are involved in setting your setting up your backlogs and?
We review it as a group.
Say a group is like you said, 26 individuals. So
Yeah,
involved
on average, we get between a dozen and 15 to everyone we run. Not everybody can attend everyone, some because they're working hard on projects and they can't get the time off. So we don't. There's no expectation that everybody comes to everyone. There's no expectation that everybody contributes. There's no we hope most people will join in some form, one way or the other, whether that's facilitating a lightning talk, whether that's joining in discussions or doing a presentation. It doesn't matter what it is. The point is it's a safe space. There's no expectations on anybody, but hopefully everybody's there with the primary goal of sharing information and learning.
So you give everyone the opportunity to be involved in that.
Yeah, and that includes any devs who come along, because we have a dev exchange at work, and that was active for a little while, and that sort of died away. And I've been trying my best to get invited to go along to the dev exchange. It's just clashed with a couple of stuff because I want to hear what they're thinking and then maybe give a different opinion on stuff. It's the same with we have an agile group that meets. I think they meet quarterly, so I like to go along with that and see what they're thinking and maybe get some ideas, share some ideas. So yeah, it's as inclusive as we can make it, and it's without putting any pressure on anybody to do anything.
How frequent do you involve?
Monthly. Yeah. So well, every 4 weeks. Every now and again, it does clash with month-end cycles, so we'll bounce it a week either way to help it in.